I'll tell you, one of the most important, obviously probably life-changing jobs to me was 9/11. That happened, and that changed my life. That kept me in photography. You know, it was a beautiful sunny day, and I was slated to work starting at 10, and my mother called me, actually, and she was watching the news. She goes, "What are you doing?" She's like, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" She's like, "Why aren't you up? What are you doing?" And she said, "A plane just went into the towers." And I was like, "What?" Boom, jump out of bed, throw on my gear. I call the post, and they're like, "Go, go, go." I'm like, "I'm gone." I ride motorcycles, always had in my life, but I was between motorcycles. I had my car, and I lived in Queens, in Astoria, and I knew that they're gonna be shutting down bridges and tunnels ASAP. And a buddy of mine who lived up in northern Manhattan, I just got him into motorcycles. And I was like, you know what, boom, I'm gonna go across, which is now the RFK Bridge, it was a tri-borough. Whipped across, went to his house, called him up. He literally just said, "Yep," tossed his keys out the window. I jumped on his motorcycle. I hit Broadway, got behind an unmarked NYPD cruiser that was just hauling ass, lights blaring, and I just stayed on his bumper, flying all the way down. Pulling in, it was a strange scene again. So I don't have any radios on or anything like that. I'm on a motorcycle. So all I know is one plane's gone in. At that point, a second one hit, the second tower. So I get down there, park the bike behind a building. Now there's dust everywhere. There was tons of people that I'm passing. Everybody's, you see the horror and whatnot, but again, I don't know the full scope. And I'm coming north to south. And so I'm looking down and I see one tower. And there's all this dust in there, and I'm like, what? I don't understand. Okay, it must be I can't see. Whatever angle, my adrenaline's pumping, not really thinking clearly. So I'm running in. People are screaming at me, "What the hell are you doing? What are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm going that way. That's where I need to be. That's where the action is. That's where you gotta be. Well, news say, I'm about 2 blocks running in, boom, second one starts to drop. I just click boom, 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 and then jump behind a building, threw my cameras under t-shirt, crouched in a position, and the wall of debris and smoke just engulfed and everything went black and there's just rumbling. And then silence. And just said, okay, well, if this is it, so be it, but this is gonna be a fucking hell of a day. The lights started, filtering through, and I just jumped up and I kept running south down into what was ground zero and made some iconic photographs that went all over the world. First off would be the fireman kneeling on the axe, praying. That's been all over the world, and that was fireman Mike Bellatoni, who came out of Staten Island that day. They took the ferry across. A lot of the gear that was here, as far as the FDNY, was all just destroyed and buried. And guys were coming over on the ferry, they're just bringing whatever they can carry in their hands. And Mike actually grabbed the axe off the ferry to take in as a tool. I'm saying I took a break and I'm just looking at everything and just trying to kind of gather myself. And I just, for some reason, I turned around and I saw Mike sitting there in his full gear on the axe, down on a knee praying. And I just took 3 frames and I walked up to him. I said, "Sorry, I don't want to bother you right now, but were you doing what I think you were just doing?" He goes, "Yeah," and I'm heading in. And that photograph now actually, amazingly, is about 9-story mural on 3rd Avenue of 49th Street, which was painted by the famous graffiti artist Cobra, which was done a number of years ago, which still remains untouched and just as pristine and beautiful and powerful. There was another famous photograph. It was a firefighter I shot behind. You see his back and he's standing with a pike in his hand looking over the entire pile, which just showed this unbelievable strength of these men who, even just with a hand tool, we're heading in and we're not gonna stop. They're gonna do the job. They're gonna save anybody, whatever can be done. But these guys were not gonna stop. Many times, if you're lucky, you're tested in life to find out really what you're made of. This was definitely a test as far as, I kept running in and I stayed in and didn't flinch. And there was at one point, there was rumor going around that there was chemicals aboard the plane and that we were probably all dead. And everybody just kind of looked at each other and said, well, f*** it. So what? We're here. You keep working.